Hi guys, Dr. Davis here for our week 5 live lecture. And this week we're talking about a few different things in regards to stereotypes, the assignments you're doing this week, and so forth. So let's go ahead and jump into the material. First off, I just want to take the time to welcome you to the week 5 live lecture. If you have any questions at all after the meeting closes, of course, you can feel free to reach out to me using the messages or the mail feature in our course. So, of course, like we always do, we're going to go over the assignments this week. We'll go over the details for the assignments and the expectations. We'll also discuss some of the weekly material to give you a better understanding. And, of course, we'll have time at the end of the meeting for questions if you have any. Okay, so your assignments this week, your readings are, thank goodness, a lot lighter than they were last week. Excuse me. You'll be reading chapter 5 this week. We'll also have our discussion on stereotypes. Don't forget that your initial post was due is due on Tuesdays by 11:59 p.m. Central Time, and all reply posts to the discussions are due by Saturday of the active academic week by 11:59 p.m. Central Time. Also, your MAP final paper will be due this Sunday by 11:59 p.m. Central Time. So as always, discussion posts that are late and live lecture codes which are late are not accepted for credit. So don't forget that you can see there on the screen what the discussion deadlines are, and we've discussed that before. And also your live lecture codes are due by Sunday of the active academic week. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk a little bit about your discussion. So we know that stereotyping is prevalent in our society, and it also has a lot of negative effects in our lives. But I'd like you to consider how the media uses stereotypes, and I'd like you to describe an example of a stereotype in the media that you've recently witnessed. Now, I do want you to remember this. First off, stereotyping, as much as we don't like to admit this, stereotyping is actually a form of just natural human nature. Humans have to categorize things, individuals, events, and so forth to make sense of them in their own world. Now, with that being said, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I don't like to stereotype people. Of course not. Of course you don't want to stereotype other people. But stereotyping, and that's why I like to talk about this, stereotyping doesn't always have to be a negative thing. Sometimes it can be a positive thing. So we're going to discuss that in our discussion this week. So that leads me to the next question in your discussion. I'd also like you to talk about, is there a situation where a media stereotype can be used in a positive manner? And I'd like you to explain that. So I'm going to give you my example in just a second, but don't forget, again, your initial posts are due by Tuesdays at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, and your reply posts to your fellow classmates are due by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Central Time as well. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit of positive stereotyping. All right, so here is a great example that I like to use. Unfortunately, stereotyping is just a natural thing for most human beings, or for all human beings for that matter. And in fact, more times than not, stereotyping is used in a negative manner and can affect us personally. It can affect our loved ones. It can affect so many different things. So I would say that most of us, if we were truly honest, could say that we have been stereotyped at one point or another, or have stereotyped someone or something else. But what I'd like you to think about here is, can stereotypes be positive? Well, here's an example here. I think that Rosie the Riveter, who is on our screen right here, Rosie the Riveter is a great example of a positive stereotype. As the United States faced the ever daunting challenge of a global world war in the 1940s, people on the home front came together as they never did before. The stories of their struggles, which both broke barriers and shaped many of today's social innovations, also helped chart a path for a new vision that we have today. Rosie was a fictional character created as part of a propaganda campaign to sell the importance of the war effort and to lure women into the workforce, which was something that was rarely seen before this time period. Now, they promoted the fictional character of Rosie the Riveter as basically the ideal woman worker. She was seen as loyal, efficient, patriotic, and pretty. So the road taken by women in the workforce during World War II continued into our future, into what we see today, which is why I'm able to teach you in this college classroom. Society has changed, and thank goodness that it has. And I think it was all based on things such as Rosie the Riveter and so forth. So the daughters and the granddaughters of Rosie's, um, you know, contribution to our society have continued to change the world and the workforce as we know it. Rosie the Riveter is a reminder to us all to try new things, to test our limits, and to believe in ourselves and others. Although technically this is a stereotype, Rosie can inspire us and, in my opinion, is a great example of a positive stereotype. So hopefully this will get your mind going in terms of positive stereotypes, and you can do a little research on that and integrate that into your discussion post for this week's lesson. All right. So with that being said, here's another example of a stereotype that, or basically it's a media portraying stereotypes that are actually kind of helping to break the negative stereotypes that are out there. And if you can't read it, it says on the top left, it says, I'm punk, so I must rebel. The one on the top right corner says, I'm Asian, so I must like math. The bottom left-hand corner says, I dye my hair crazy colors, so I must be looking for attention. And the bottom right says, I'm a person, so I must be stereotyped. So I like this campaign because I think it's working to break negative stereotypes. It's saying, just because I'm this way doesn't mean that this is true. So I really enjoy this campaign, and hopefully this will also help you to get to thinking of some different things as well. All right, so let's flip gears for a second. Don't forget that your MAP final paper is due this week. So it's time to submit that final version of your paper. Don't forget to check out the details under the media analysis project, and of course go back to your, I believe it's your live lecture for week 3 if you want to review what all it should encompass and entail. Double check your paper for things such as proper mechanics, spelling errors, grammatical issues, punctuation issues, and so forth, because that is a part of your grade. And also, of course, make sure that you are completing 6 to 8 pages of content with no images embedded in the content. Remember, if you'd like to include images, you may include them in an appendix section behind your reference page in your paper. And of course, your paper should be in proper APA format, and you should have a properly formatted title page and reference page with 5 properly formatted references, both integrated into the content of your paper as well as on a separate reference page. So your MAP final paper will be due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. All right, and here's your rubric for your MAP final paper. Thesis is clearly stated at the beginning of the paper is 5 points. The final paper shows careful analysis of the media piece and how it relates to the 6 perspectives is 40 points. Research supports the analysis, 10 points. Presentation shows a strong awareness of audience, 10 points. The project is well organized with a clearly evident purpose and thesis, 5 points. Proper mechanics such as grammar and spelling are followed, 5 points. References are from credible sources, and sources are properly cited using APA format. And don't forget, those should be in the paper as well as on a separate reference page. 5 points each. Reference information is seamlessly integrated into the language of the paper. 5 points. The project as a whole is accurately demonstrates application of critical thinking skills. So 10 points for a total of 100%. All right, so with that being said, your code word this week, and this is a really short lecture this week, guys, but mainly I didn't want to dig too much into this week because I'd like you to focus on that MAP final paper. So I'm hoping that the shorter meeting this week means that you've got more time to dedicate to your final paper. So that being said, your code word this week is Christmas. I told you that I like to tell you a little bit about myself in each meeting, and my favorite holiday. I love all holidays. Actually, I'm big into decorating and just the celebration of different holidays. But Christmas is my absolute favorite, and that's my little fur baby there. That's my Louie, and he's sitting in the middle of all of our wrapping paper from a few years back, and you can kind of see the tree skirt and the bottom of the tree in the background and some gifts. So I just thought this would be a fun picture to share with you. But the code word this week is Christmas. All right, so with that being said, if you have questions, I'll stick around a little bit after the meeting. If you are listening to the recorded version, that's perfectly fine too, and you can just send your questions via email if you have any. Otherwise, enjoy your week, and thank you for your hard work and dedication. You're getting there, so stick with things. All right, have a good week. Thank you.